Hi, everybody. I'm Kat Margulis, and I'm the host of The Power of Story. And as a longtime journalist, author, and book coach, I see story everywhere I go. And in recent years, I've had the opportunity to see how stories can transform lives and businesses. So that's what I want to explore with you and my guests through this series is how you can create the life, the business, and the legacy of your dreams through story. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me Sterling Hawkins. Sterling is out to break the status quo from a multi-million dollar startup to collapse and coming back to launch, invest in, and grow over 50 companies. Sterling takes that experience to work with companies around the world. Today, Sterling serves as CEO and founder of the Sterling Hawkins Group, a research training and development company focused on unlocking human and organizational potential. He has been seen in publications like Inc., Fast Company, the New York Times, and Forbes, and recently released the best-selling book, Hunting Discomfort. Sterling, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to dive in with you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I just left off with talking about the book. So why don't you tell us about your book, Hunting Discomfort, and what does that mean, and what does it mean for businesses today?
Yeah. Well, probably the most feedback I get from the book and in the keynotes that I'm doing different places, at least initially, is Sterling, you got to look at my business, my bank account, my relationships. I don't need to hunt discomfort. I'm surrounded by it. And I get it. The world's a crazy place, especially these days. And there's a lot of challenges with inflation and the war in Europe and technology changing. And we've got all this change happening around us. And it's really a world of uncertainty that we're in the midst of. And so that's just at some level inherently uncomfortable. But my response to that question or the comment is always the same, which means if you're surrounded by discomfort, you're not hunting it. You're living with it and probably rationalizing why you have all that discomfort. You don't have enough money, or the relationships aren't what you want, or your business isn't what you want. What the book's about, and really my whole life journey has been about, is hunting discomfort to be forever free of it. To set all the discomfort aside, whether it be the challenges, the self-doubt, the fear of exposure, whatever it is. How can you hunt those, set those things aside to unleash greater potential inside of yourself? And that's really what the book's about. And it's what all my work is about these days. How do you unleash the inherent potential that's inside every one of us? And you do that by setting aside the discomfort that's in the way of you being everything that you can be.
I love it. Think God's speaking to me right now because this is my second interview today where discomfort has come up. So I'm like, okay, I get to do the thing that is really scary for me right now. Thank you. How are you applying this in business?
Yeah. Well, it came from a journey of hunting discomfort myself. I didn't intend it. I wouldn't wish discomfort on myself or anybody else. But, I went on this crazy journey early on in my career. I started a company that my dad and I started together. We sold it to a group in Silicon Valley where it became part of this like Apple Pay before Apple Pay. And it was a little fingerprint sensor that sat next to the credit card terminal. You didn't need your phone, but you would just put your finger down on the sensor and all your credit cards would come up, loyalty cards, just like Apple Pay, but no phone. And this is, let me think, early 2000s. And so people would look at this thing, especially investors would look at this thing and say, this is the future. Like, we're going to be part of this. Take our money. And so we ended up raising $550 million US, multi-billion-dollar valuation. Right. And I'm like on cloud nine. I'm like, I've got this life and business thing figured out. Forget discomfort. Like, I'm on the path of success. And it's only a matter of time until this thing goes public and everybody cashes in and we all buy islands or whatever it was going to be. And very long, very dramatic story short, when the housing market collapsed, our investment dried up and we didn't have enough organic growth to sustain the 700 people in offices all over the world that we had grown to. And so the company ended up going bankrupt. And when the company went bankrupt and collapsed, it led to a personal collapse as well. And Kat, I think you've heard this story before, but I ended up playing out this like sad country song of a story where I go from the penthouse to my parents' house. I run out of cash. I run myself into debt. It was so bad, even my girlfriend broke up with me. It was like one thing after another. And it was in that dark moment that I realized that all the things that I was avoiding, the things I was worried about, the things that I was most fearful of, it was inside of those things that had what was next for me. It was the birth, the seed of something new.
Mm.
And so my work really with the leadership of companies is to first identify what are those things that you're worried about, that you're fearful of, that you're probably playing to survive against. And then how can we get to the core of those things to move through that fear, move through that discomfort, and create something that's ultimately inspiring to the leadership team, to the company, that they can all live true to thereafter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that before. So, but that's incredible. And I think how inspiring to be part of a workplace or a company that's willing to take themselves on. Uh, uh, God, that's incredible.
It really is. And I'm grateful for it every day because, speaking in public, I do a ton of keynotes. I'll probably do 50 keynotes this year, several 100,000 people. And I kid you not, speaking in public was the thing that scared me most. Like, I'm one of the many people that would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. Like, by far terrified me because everything that I thought I was at that point had fallen apart. I'm early 30s, living in my parents' house, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't have a choice, it's just not a good look in your early 30s. At least wasn't good for me. Girlfriend broke up with me, no cash, like all that success I thought had defined me. And when I lost it all, I lost any ability to stand on a stage, to share myself, because I didn't think I was enough anymore.
Mm.
And I'll never forget, my mom said this thing when I was a kid. It came back to me when I was living at her house. She said, "The way out is through." Have you heard that one before?
I'm not sure I've heard it that way. No.
It's a Robert Frost quote, "The way out is through." And
Mm.
I thought, you know what? Let's take this thing for a test drive. Like, is that really true? And to me, it meant go through the things that you're most fearful of, you're worried about, you're scared of. Go through those things, and what you're looking for is on the other side. And right then, I don't know if like the heavens opened up or the skies parted or whatever happened, but my email dings and it was this conference in Singapore. And it wasn't an email to me. It was just a junk mail that I'm sure thousands of people received, inviting me to be an attendee at a conference.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, if the way out is through, what if I speak at this conference? And I hit reply and I said, "Why don't you have me speak, Beth Sterling?" I know, it's crazy. And I thought nothing of it. I'm like, there's no way, but I'm on this path of, I'm going to go after that fear of public speaking. And conference director ends up getting back to me. We have trade a couple of emails, end up getting on the phone. I think it was one of these situations where I literally had nothing to lose. So it was like a game to me, right? As I'm telling
Yeah.
him what I want to talk about and everything. And at the end of our conversation, he says, "Yeah, I'd love to invite you to be a speaker at our conference." And it didn't hit me until he sent me the legal agreement. And I was like, what are you doing? This is insane. Like, not only do you have this huge failure on your resume, but you don't know what you're going to talk about, and you're terrified, like really viscerally terrified to do it. So I did what I recommend everybody do when they meet that discomfort, at least head on, is I committed in a way where there was no going back. So I signed a legal agreement and sent it back to him before I could talk myself out of it. And
Wow.
I spent the next several months preparing for that talk like a crazy person, day in and day out.
Love it. What a great story.
Yeah,
Incredible
yeah,
story.
it seems like a dream now. I can't believe I went through that whole experience.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Um, and you're comfortable with your story now, but what did it take you to for you to get here and be able to talk about it in this way?
Well, I practiced a lot. My sister, she's about a decade younger than me, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without her. I recruited her right out of college. She was undergrad of Georgetown marketing. And I said, I've got this speaking thing that I'm doing in Singapore. I have no idea how to do it or what I'm going to do. And will you help me? And she said, of course, I'll help you.
Hmm.
And so she really was, think of it as like half accountability partner, half somebody to like talk me through the really tough times when I was convinced I couldn't do it and I didn't want to do it.
Cool.
And, as we get closer, I say, her name's Haviland. I say, Haviland, listen, either like, I'll just give you some of the money from this talk for helping me, or you can come with me. She goes, you're an idiot. I'm coming with you. So we take this trip to Singapore, and what it took for me is, I think what it takes for all of us in those dark times is it's somebody there kind of holding your hand, looking at in your eyes, being witness to the discomfort that you're moving through. I
Mm.
mean, she was there as I stepped onto the plane and was having like a panic attack and couldn't breathe, and I'm sweating profusely. She was there the morning of the keynote as I'm practicing like 3, 4, 5 times, as many times as I could practice before I go on the stage. And she was with me through that discomfort, and having somebody be your witness, your support, your accountability, I think is key. And it really, that was why I was able to do whatever I did on that stage. And by the way, when I got on the stage, I think I blacked out. I was so nervous. Like, it didn't matter how much I practiced. Like, I do not remember giving that keynote,
Oh my God.
but I get off the stage and I thought I bombed. So I'm kind of covering my eyes and I'm running for the exit, and the conference director catches up with me and he looks at me and he goes, Sterling, that was the best talk I've seen in my like 17 years of doing this. I know. I couldn't believe it. And to this day, I don't think he was in the same keynote that I was actually in.
I love it.
But he did go on to put me in touch with all of his conference director friends. And I was like, my
Oh,
mom was right. The way out was through. And to this day, my sister runs all our operations and marketing. She's still my left-hand person. Like I said, I wouldn't be doing any of this without her. So it really takes
yeah.
somebody that's going to be a stand for you, a stand for your potential, and holds your commitments and what you want to achieve in your life or business higher than whatever feelings you have in any particular moment, especially those feelings of discomfort.
I have goosebumps. Really, thank you for that. That was for me, everybody.
Yeah.
That was for me. I needed that advice for my season. So thank you so much.
Of
Yeah, because I
course.
think people we just sort of tend to think about me, myself, and I, and whatever it is I'm facing, whatever thing I got to do, or whatever passion project or the story I'm going to write, like it's always alone,
Yeah.
and the importance of having somebody else in the room with you.
Yeah.
And who's got your back.
And that's a story I share from many stages around the world these days.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, like you said, like it almost gives people some permission to step into whatever they're worried about, step into those fears, even step into those failures. I joke oftentimes with a lot of people in the speaking industry. Many of them have taken companies public and climbed Everest and like done all these incredible feats, or they've been to space. And I'm like, yeah, I have this massive, massive failure. And I was scared of something very basic that many people are, speaking in public.
Yeah.
And here I am kind of rubbing shoulders with some of these people that have done incredible things. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you've been successful or not in the past, however you want to define that, in your relationship, in your bank account, in your business, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. What matters is, do you have the courage, or can you summon the courage or build the
Mhm.
courage to go after those things that really you most want in your life? On the other
Mm.
side of discomfort are all the things that we want: time better spent, deeper relationships, more joy and happiness. But it really does take like summoning the depths of the courage that you have inside of yourself to go through it. Because
Mhm.
as you're going through, and having gone through it myself and continuing to go through it, it feels like you, as your very being, is falling apart. And
Mm.
as you have, back to that, that support, as you have somebody that's going to help you through that, that's always going to get you to the other side.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um,
Yeah.
and so what you're talking about, what you're sharing, vulnerability is a big part of it. And I mean, that's especially tricky in business. which is, the space that you're doing this in. But I
Yeah.
think if anybody's writing a book and they're going to have a memoir, they have to share it with their family. And like, um, what encouragement do you have for people when it comes to the price that they get to be willing to pay, or they might pay, when it comes to being vulnerable?
Yeah. Well, first, and I think this is an important point for everybody,
Mhm.
is I found some research out of the University of Michigan. And you felt physical discomfort before, I'm sure, like you stubbed your toe, emotional discomfort, like maybe a job didn't go how you wanted it to go, or you broke up with a loved one, right? Like we've all had emotional discomfort.
Mm.
Well, it turns out that physical, mental, emotional, arguably spiritual, but that wasn't in the study, our brains and our bodies process that discomfort almost identically. So
Ah.
much so, you can take acetaminophen, just Advil, and it will help you with emotional pain. Now, I'm not a doctor. That's not a biohack. I don't suggest you do that. But what I do suggest for all of us is that if where we meet discomfort is the same anywhere, we can
Mm.
grow our capacity to deal with it everywhere. It's a muscle you can build. You go to the gym to build your biceps. Well, if you want to build your courage, your resilience, your ability to produce breakthrough results, you hunt discomfort, no matter what form it's in. So today, as we're all sitting here, maybe you are not comfortable, opening up the kimono and being really vulnerable at work,
Mhm.
but you can do that at home. Or you can do it in these other situations because you're building that, I call it your discomfort muscle inside of yourself. And
Mhm.
so if you're in a situation that feels like you're at an impasse, like you don't know what to do, or maybe you can't summon the courage to get on a stage and speak in public if you're afraid to speak, there are other things that you can do, even small things that you can do on a daily basis that will build you the courage to get there.
Love
I
it.
I don't know about you, but I start avoiding discomfort from the moment I get up in the morning. Boom, snooze button, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a moment of discomfort. And then a little bit later, I feel a little tired. Boom, coffee. I get to the office. I'm looking at the stairs, but I take the elevator, right? Another
Mhm.
moment of discomfort. And our day is really made up of all these moments where we can turn into discomfort and embrace them, or turn away from them. And the more that we turn towards them, open to them, it builds our ability to deal with any of the situations. And it gives
Mhm.
us a little stronger footing inside of ourselves to be able to be vulnerable in any situation. I don't
Love
know if I
it.
answered your question, but that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a really great exercise and tool, because we can kind of go, um, I'm here and this is what I want, and discomfort's in the meal, and we keep thinking that we got to take this big giant leap to that
Yeah.
thing, rather
And you
than
and you
all the
can. The leaps
steps.
are okay too, as long as you've got the support.
Yes, yeah, but yeah, that you can build. And what I'm really hearing is resilience, building resilience. Yeah,
Right.
very cool.
Yeah, oftentimes companies and people too, by the way, look
Mhm.
to things in the physical world to quote unquote future proof them, right?
Mhm.
If I've got this amount of money in my bank account, that means I'm going to be okay. If we can get this innovation, this technology to market, then we're okay. If we
Mhm.
can launch this branding or drive this much sales, then we're going to be okay. And the truth is, the world is changing at such a pace today that we never know. None of us, at least anybody I know, predicted a pandemic that would shut down the world for 18
Mhm.
months, almost 2 years,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of the things that people were leaning on saying, oh, I've got this, it's okay, those were pulled out from under them. We
Mhm.
cannot count on anything in the physical and the material world. I mean, we need those things. We need to work through those things, and we need to build, reserves and surplus as much as we can.
Mhm.
The only thing that's going to future-proof you as an individual or you as a company is building that resilience, that discomfort muscle inside of yourself. So no matter what happens, you'll be able to deal with it.
Oh, I love that. That's really powerful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Um,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to shift gears.
Yeah, you
I'm
got
going
it.
to shift gears. How do you craft your stories for the work that you do in the stage?
Well, what's most important to me is what is most important to the client. And I do this on a professional basis, but I think it works in conversations as well,
Yeah.
right? There's something that I want, but more important is, what does the client want?
Mhm.
When I leave that stage after 60 minutes, how do they want the audience to feel? What do they want them to be thinking? What do they want them to be doing differently? And so
Mm.
really I craft whatever narrative I'm going to share around those specific things. And, of course, I'm going to share the 5 core practices of how you get results no matter what, the no matter what system that's outlined in the book and all those things. And we can get into that too, if you like.
Yeah.
Um, but the biggest difference that I'm going to be able to make is to reframe how they're looking at discomfort in their own life and in their own work. A
Mm.
lot of times I've done a lot of work in healthcare, and they've been through the ringer the last couple of years with taking care of, everything COVID related. I've done a lot of work in the restaurant space, and they've been hit pretty
Yeah.
hard. Of all industries, I think restaurants were hit the worst.
Yeah.
And to be able to reframe that feeling of, um, what's ahead of me is impossible. It's insurmountable. I don't know how I'm going to achieve it. Or maybe I've been working so hard and so much I'm burned out. But hearing from the client ahead of time of what they want for their audience helps me tell, the story and my story that I shared a little bit with you in a
Mhm.
way that's going to support them in whatever it is
Mhm.
that they're trying to achieve. I'm not an expert in many of these industries, but I am an expert on how to reframe and understand discomfort and use it to create breakthroughs. And
Mm.
that only matters if I can deliver it in a way where the audience can hear it and hear some opportunity for themselves in it.
Yeah, I love that, in a way that the audience can hear it. That's so important and powerful. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And totally candidly, this whole thing started out just about me. Like,
Mhm.
I was only worried about me. Like, how do I dig myself out of this hole? And
Mhm.
how do I never get back to this dark place again? And totally organically, first, my sister, she saw it. She saw what I was going through. She was helping me go through it. And she, like all too many young people, especially young women, dealt with body dysmorphia and eating disorders. And she said, "You know what, Sterling, I'm going to go after that discomfort myself. I'm going to take a page out of your book. I'm going to do what you're doing." And today she is a championship bodybuilder. I know. I know. You got to see her on Instagram. It doesn't even feel like my sister sometimes. And then, more friends and coworkers and people around us started saying, "Hey, wait a minute. I don't have to be victimized by this discomfort. I can go after it." Right? It's not going to be comfortable, but I'm sick of living with this discomfort for a year, for 10 years, for lifetimes in many cases. I'm going
Mhm.
to go through it too. And today we've got the no matter what community where people have started businesses. They've gone from burned out jobs to dream careers. They've transformed their physicality. They've run marathons. They've gotten married. I mean, I realized that this isn't about me. This is about
Yeah.
supporting others to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve, no matter how seemingly impossible or difficult or uncomfortable it might be. And incredibly, they're achieving these kinds of results too. And I couldn't be more grateful for it.
Yeah, I want to join that community.
Yeah,
That sounds
come on
amazing.
in.
I love that hashtag. Tell us more about no matter what, because I love this.
Yeah. Well, it started as a personal mantra.
Yeah.
When I got that speaking job in Singapore, the way out is through, but you've got to be willing to go through no matter what. And so that's
Mhm.
just what I told myself. Like, I'm going to get out of bed today, no matter what. I'm going to practice for 5 hours today, no matter what. I'm going to go to the gym today, no matter what. And then, it's something my sister took on because she would hear me saying it to myself, like, I'm going to do that no matter what. And she said,
Yes.
"Okay, I'm going to do these bodybuilding competitions no matter what." And very organically, people started to grab onto it and say, "Okay, yeah, the way out is through. You're right about that, Sterling.
Mhm.
But we need to be willing to go through no matter what."
Mhm.
And so that's become the essence, kind of the kernel of what the community is today. People willing to go through the really hard things, the challenging conversations, the things they're worried about, betting maybe some of their savings on starting a new business, whatever it is, and
Mm.
willing to do it no matter what. Taking
Yeah.
out the backup plans, the escape plans, the plan B. Now, there's a time and a place for those. My financial planner would yell at me for saying that, right? But if you're really looking to grow, you've got to be willing to do it no matter what. And
Mhm.
that's what the community is about. And that's how it started.
I love it. It's a really refreshing antidote to what we've collectively been through, and that we're still kind of coming out of fear. And so
Yeah.
there's just so much energy. It's so galvanizing, that phrase. And playing, and I think this is yours too. I think it is playing offense instead of being in retreat and playing defense all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like really going after what it is you want. I mean, a great business example of that is many restaurants shut down during the pandemic, but there's this really cool spot up in Seattle. It's called Addo. Founder is Eric Rivera. And he actually, through going through the discomfort, right? All his competition are closing their doors, letting go of people. He said, I'm not going to let go of one person. We're going
Hmm.
to use our wait staff to deliver food ourselves. Oh,
Mhm.
we can't get all the products that we need for our recipes. We're just going to do a custom menu every day. And they did all of these things, made all these changes. And in the middle of the pandemic, the worst time in history to be in the restaurant business, he started doing more business than ever before. There's always a way, but
Yeah.
almost guaranteed it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So inspiring and
Thanks,
encouraging
Scott.
to chat with you today. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really loved our conversation. Before I let you go, is there anything you'd want to add or share with our audience?
Yeah. Well, there are 5 main discomforts that we all deal with. We all deal with all of them, but one of them rises to the top, and it could be a self-doubt that you're worried about, or it could be fear of exposure, or it could be just a fear of the unknown. What we
Mm,
put together, and if it's okay, we'll drop it in the
yeah.
links here, is a quick quiz. It doesn't cost anything. It's called the Hunting Discomfort Quiz. 15 questions, and you can take that to at least get some direction on what is the biggest discomfort that's in the way of me achieving what it is that I want to achieve. And I wouldn't leave you hanging there. Of course, when you get to the end of it, it gives you some direction as to what to do about it, how to go through that discomfort no matter what.
Oh, I love it. I want to do that. I want to do that
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have
today.
to let me know what you get. We'll talk afterwards.
Yes, amazing. Yes, so this is going to be in the show notes as well, and in the email going out with this interview. Hunting discomfort quiz at sterlinghawkins.com. Sterling, what fun! I had
Yeah.
a great
Thank you
time
so
with you
much, Kat. This has
today.
been a blast. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Stay tuned, everybody. There's a Power Story workshop on October 24th, and more amazing interviews on the way. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Sterling, for being here and sharing with the audience.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye, everybody.